Welcome back, sailors. This is your captain speaking, and welcome to an episode of BRUISE News. We'll start off with something super hot. The guy who can't stay out of the news, Conor McGregor himself. Conor just had the case dropped against him. The case about the phone incident where he had taken he had taken a fan's phone outside a Las Vegas hotel at about 5 in the morning. There was a bunch of people around. Conor had taken the phone from the guy who was trying to take a picture with him. He took the phone, first he pretended to be all kind about it, and he reached out almost to shake the guy's hand, but instead he snatched the phone out of his hand, and he threw it on the ground, he stomped on it, and then he picked it back up, and he walked away with it. So at first, when he was originally charged, he was charged with a theft and then a strong-arm robbery, and he was looking at 23 years in prison if he were to be found guilty. Now, we all know that chances are that was never going to be the case, that he would get 23 years in an American prison. Like, I'm sure, first of all, Ireland wouldn't allow that to happen. Second of all, nobody in the UFC or anywhere else would have allowed that to happen. So I never really thought that it was going to be something that people were going to really go hard for Conor for, but I didn't think it would go exactly the way that it did. So following forward, originally the charge was strong-arm robbery. That was reduced down to a misdemeanor theft, just misdemeanor theft. And then it was completely dropped in court after. Well, actually, I should go back and say when it was dropped to misdemeanor theft, it was because apparently the guy's name was Abdul something crazy, and he had a phone that apparently the state had considered a phone that wasn't high quality, so they didn't want to consider it a larger charge than it was. Now, I don't really see how that makes a difference. Like, it shouldn't matter if he has the new iPhone, 10 that's worth $1,000, or he has a 2008 Nokia flip phone. It really doesn't matter. It's the guy's phone, and it was taken from him. It's somebody's phone. People keep their phones on their hips. People keep their phones on them constantly. They're always looking at them. Social media is really a killer, but, well, not just social media, but phones in general. But anyways, it shouldn't matter the cost of the phone, because you can't really put a price on somebody's attachment to that device. That's a huge thing that's happening, all over the place right now, is that people are so attached to these things that you can't really put a value on what that means to a person. You can only put a value on the phone, and he wasn't being charged for the damage to the phone at all. He was being charged with strong-arm robbery, which is essentially a robbery with an assault. So first that happened, and then it was reported that apparently he had completely dropped the charges, and he said that he was made whole, which basically means that that Conor, outside of the arrangement, had made a payment to the guy in a sufficient amount that caused the guy to be like, oh, I'm not worried about this anymore. But it's kind of odd at the same time, because it wasn't as open and shut as that seems. It seems more or less like it may have been a scare tactic, and I don't know if anybody knows too much about this. I'd said this in my previous videos, that Conor's actually been linked to the Irish mob, and he's been linked to a bunch of crazy stuff in Ireland that has to do with, like, prostitution rings and, sex trafficking rings and drug rings and mob stuff and killings. And there have been rumors that Conor has pieces of that. About a year ago, Conor punched a 50-year-old guy in a club, and apparently the guy was a part of another member of the Irish mob, and it was just something that had come out, and people defended it, but people also kept it really quiet. It's just one of those things. So maybe it was that Conor was just like, here, take $1 million. You're not really allowed to do that unless it's initiated by the victim's party. So maybe that is the case where he just came forward, was like, hey, if you give me some money, then we're squared up, But moving forward, the case had actually been that Abdul had not shown up to court at all. One of the days, Conor had showed up, the witnesses had showed up, and Abdul didn't show up, and he didn't notify anybody, and his lawyer had said that he was squared up and he didn't want to continue with the charges, and And the state couldn't hold sufficient evidence against Connor because the main victim was not there to be a part of it. So the charges were essentially dropped at that point. Just one of those weird things, and I don't know if it's what it is at this moment. I'm sure that there's something sketchy behind it. It's not as cut and dry as we're hearing it is, but who knows. Also this weekend, this Saturday, we have RDA versus Kevin Lee. It's a nice card. I'll do my predictions this Friday, but it's going to be a nice fight. As far as news goes, there wasn't too much more news going on. Anderson Silva spoke about the leg injury that he sustained. He said that he's not going to need surgery for it. There's no more news about Rose at all. Andrade is talking about who she's going to fight next. So it's looking like, there could be some better news, but it's not too bad. There's nothing really that's come out about Brock Lesnar. He just came out again saying that if the UFC pays him more money, there's no doubt that he'll come and fight. DC and Cormier, Cormier and Stipe are still looking at making a fight happen for September, I believe. Same with Khabib. Khabib wants to fight Poirier then. Connor's been talking a little bit about fighting Cerrone, but there's nothing really finite that's happening right now that you can log on and be like, this is happening for sure. So, with that being said, a nice, quick, short update video. That's what's going on right now. It's pouring rain outside. I just thought that I would do this since I got nothing really going on. There wasn't much news, so I thought I would, bust out and do a little quick video for you. All right. I want to say thanks to everyone. Make sure you give a like, a share, and subscribe. Have a great day.